Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to our monthly town board meeting. Today is December 28th of 2022. I'd like to get the meeting started with a pledge of allegiance by Councilman as absent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Jackson.
Present.
Councilman Froelich.
Present.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Present.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Present.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Present. First on the agenda, a motion to accept the minutes from the November 30, 2022 town board meeting.
I'll make that motion. Oh, I will not make that.
I'll make
Hey, as you get older, you know, the mind's a terrible thing.
Is that done for a second? Any discussion? Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
I'll abstain.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. First on the agenda is a presentation by Delaware Engineering, who's done a facility study on the common Milton town buildings. But before that, I would like to call up John Froelich and Jason Miller from the Facilities Committee to give us a brief presentation of how we've come to this point and what the progress is. Jason?
You don't want to touch the break there, right? There you go. Welcome. So we want to give you a little bit of a background of what the Facilities Committee's been working on. Started a few months ago when we engaged with Delaware Engineering. We're starting to plan, we're coming to some ideas, and we want to get it out to the public. Over the next few months, we're going to try to give a presentation or at least an update at every meeting, so everyone can stay tuned. And we'll hopefully we have some good ideas for everyone, and you guys can participate as we go along. You're going to hear a lot of what we are going to be reclassifying highway facilities. The blue building on the bottom is what we consider a cold storage building. The two buildings that are attached, the one on the left, what we call the highway garage, and the one on the right is our maintenance garage. So, the highway facility is located at 503 Geyser Road. We, in 1967, which is the highway offices, the first garage, the highway garage, 5 bays which house 5 tandem dump trucks. That was built in 1967. The construction of the cold storage building, that blue building, was done in 86. In 88 was the construction of a salt shed. 94 was our block building, which is our maintenance garage. And the salt shed that was built in 88 fell down in 2015, which led us to our new salt shed. In 2019, DEC started to upgrade what they wanted for our fuel island. We have several different areas that we need to address. One of them is that we do not have insurance on our fuel island as it is, nor will an insurance company insure it due to its 30-year life expectancy. So we're in the process right now of getting them taken care of as soon as possible. The town board has already moved. We have finances for that, and we're going to be getting that done as soon as possible. The location that we're looking at is the 459 Round Street location. The town acquired that in 2006 from the Saratoga County. We engaged Chazen, an engineering firm, back in 2015, which decided, along with the original facilities committee at the time, that would be a better location to ultimately have the highway department. One of those ideas was get the construction company out of the town center for our businesses. We built the salt shed in 2016 up there, which MJ Engineering prepared our salt shed, the bid specs, and we started to do that. It is still there. It's at 459. It holds 3,500 tons of salt. It's been working out great. We'd like to move all of our operations up there, and it'll also give us a nice template here at the 503 Geyser Road site to possibly upgrade and expand our park system, kind of making our town center a destination where people would like to come. So in 2019, MJ also did a highway garage preliminary, and we've kind of given that over to Delaware now to pick up and try to go forward with that. The town board has already got the proposal to evaluate the conditions of the town buildings, including the highway garage and all the buildings in the town. We've accepted that, they've been working on it diligently, they're doing a good job, although Cody, you're tough. In July, we did authorize a capital project to relocate the fuel island down to Round Street, as we spoke of. We've also already acquired financing for the fuel island. November, we've accepted the building inventory condition on Delaware, which is also on the town website. Anyone can access that if they want to. We're gonna go through some of that as we go along. And here we are in December, and we're gonna have Delaware come on up and do a presentation on where we're at. Anything, John?
Oh, you did it all.
Well, thank you. Mary Beth,
Actually,
Adam,
Cody and
Cody,
Adam are gonna
whoever would like to
run
come
the
up and
show.
lead us through the next steps, please.
So, I'll kick us off here. So my name's Adam Egelski. I'm a senior planner with Delaware Engineering. And as Jason, thank you, members of the board, and thank you all for giving us some time here this evening to talk about this project that Jason gave us a nice background in the introduction. And that's kind of that first bullet point. I'll let Cody's going to do the majority of the talking here because we're basically through the condition assessment and evaluating the highway department needs. And we're going to spend a lot of time, as Jason mentioned, on the condition assessment. And we're going to get into some of the future site planning, as Jason also alluded to. So without, Cody, why don't you take it over?
So I'm Cody Messier. I'm a structural engineer and project engineer at, our project manager at Delaware Engineering. So, as Jason said, in August we began a condition assessment of all the town-owned facilities. The premise of the work was to provide the town with a condition assessment of each building and prioritize which items needed to be remediated as part of a capital improvement policy and plan.
Might be a cell phone near one of the wireless. You're good.
So, and then basically as part of our report to the town was to provide have them adopt that as a policy recommendation and implement those capital improvements over the next several years. For the purpose of this presentation, we're solely focusing on the 67 highway garage, the 86 cold storage building, and the 94 highway garage. The highway garage, the 67 highway garage and the 1986 cold storage building were rated in a poor condition. The 1994 highway garage is in fair condition. A particular note for the 1967 highway garage, there was a bunch of different items that we found would be, and we'll go into it a little bit, we found that were beyond repair or would require major overhauls and capital expenditures. The 1994 highway garage, while we don't recommend the demolition of the structure, looking at it solely as the building itself, there's mortar cracking on the south wall and on the west wall where the overhead doors are. And it appears to be a very limited insulated structure. There's a whole bunch of heat loss in that building. And then the 1986 cold storage building, the roof panels, the wall panels, all need to be replaced. All of the overhead doors need to be replaced. The jambs and the trim around the overhead doors all need to be replaced. So again, it's a major overhaul of that building just to bring it up to what we would think would be current highway garage standards. So we would recommend that that structure be demolished and replaced. Here you can see the current layout of the site. We have the cold storage building on the west, the 1994 building on the south, 67 highway garage, right attached out the back window there. And then the fuel island, as Jason mentioned, at the south end of the site next to the playground. So here's some pictures of the 1967 garage from our condition assessment. You can see that the bag and sag insulation, due to pest infestation and or roof leaks, has in a number of locations ripped, making it thermally insufficient. This is a 5-bay garage. Each bay holds 1 plow truck. It's a pre-engineered metal building. It's got corrugated metal roof panels, corrugated metal wall panels. The walls, or the doors, are uninsulated sectional doors. The windows are single pane windows, and the walls are actually comprised of a exterior metal panel, an air gap, and an interior metal panel. So there's no insulation in the exterior wall system. And to make matters worse, in our findings, the overhead infrared tube heating system that was original to the building is no longer functioning. There was 1 unit heater that is a 200,000 BTU heating output, which, due to the thermal insufficiencies of the building, is likely not heating the building, and most of the heat is escaping through the lack of insulation or the ripped insulation. The slab on grade has many picks, balls, and cracks. These prevent tripping hazards. Also, it really prevents any sort of like floor jacks or rollers. Really not optimal for highway garage efficient maintenance. So, because of all of these deficiencies, a complete gut and re-overhaul of the building would be required. And given that the fact that this building was built in 1967, the overall clear height of the building is not what we would typically design for today to allow for truck body panels to be lifted off and adequate maintenance for the plow trucks. The 1994 highway garage, as I noted before, you can kind of see on the screen, there's cracking along the west side and on the south side of the building. The west side is likely due to lack of control joints in the initial design. And the south side is likely due to a 5-ton overhead bridge crane that was not original to the building. The lateral loads imposed by sudden starts and stops from the crane are likely the cause of what is cracking the block on the south side. The crane is locked out, so it hasn't been in use for many, many years. These cracks over time will allow water intrusion into the wall, and they will only get worse with freezing and thawing of water. This garage does have the adequate clear height. This is where the highway hydraulic lifts are. This is where they do all the truck body lifting and lifting it up to service the vehicles. But there are no support offices in this space. There's no restrooms in this space. All of the utilities, the natural gas and the electric service is fed from the 1967 town court building. So as we would recommend this for demolition in conjunction with the demolition of the 1967 highway garage and the cold storage building, because standalone, that building would have to be overhauled and repurposed to make it conditioned space and also provide adequate facilities if it was to be its own standalone structure. So here on this slide you can see highlighted above, the red pipe is the 4-inch natural gas main that runs across the 1967 highway garage and into the 1994 highway garage. And then also adjacent to it, kind of hard to see in the photos, is the 150 amp electrical service that feeds the 1994 highway garage. So again, if the 1984 highway garage were to remain, there would be extensive complexities in terms of rerouting these services underground or outside of the footprint to keep that building operational when the 1967 highway garage is demolished. The cold storage building, you can see here on a bunch of different photos, that one up top middle there, that's at the south end of the building. It's pretty typical condition for the corners of the building. The middle picture down on the bottom, that's a typical condition at the overhead door jams where you can see the 2x8 jam is rotted away and there's a lack of trim around it. On the picture to the left, there's some eave trim that's missing, and we also noted there was extensive water staining of the roof trusses. While there wasn't any noted rot to the roof trusses, over time that water intrusion will cause rot to the wood trusses. And again, we recommend that this building be demolished and replaced or moved rather than reskinning this entire building for services that, rather than repurposing this building for services that would be better suited up at the Rowland Street site. So, as Jason previously mentioned, the town acquired the Rowland Street site in 2006. The salt shed is currently on the site. We had a meeting with the town to discuss the needs of this site, and we identified the need for a new highway garage, a new cold storage building, and the fuel outlet. Discussing continued operations for public access for bulk storage materials, and then also the layout of the site we talked about to increase efficiencies in the highway operations. Right now they're kind of shoehorned in with kind of a one way in, one way out. So here's a blow up of it. You can see the Rowland Street site is right at the northeast corner of the Saratoga County Airport. And then this is how the site looks today with the salt shed at the northwest corner of the parcel. So in our September meeting, we discussed the needs and needs within each building. The new highway garage is recommended to be a fully engineered metal building. It's going to be able to accommodate 10 bays for plow truck parking and 4 bays for maintenance. There's going to be an overhead crane over the maintenance bays, full air drops, fuel drops, fluid drops. The height will be high enough where they can lift the trucks and not have to worry about any overhead clearance issues. There would be a wash bay so that they can wash all the salt off the trucks. We did talk about limiting the number of overhead doors on the building to reduce maintenance costs and also improve energy efficiency. Within the building would be the highway staff, parks department staff, the highway clerk, all foremen, mechanics. There'd be a dual purpose break room for training and lunch purposes. And the new cold storage building would be a similar pre-engineered metal building structure. It'll have the ability to house 8 additional plow truck storage and then have 3 bays for miscellaneous small equipment storage such as mowers, asphalt paving equipment, traffic cones, traffic barrels, and then similar to the 1986 building, there will be shelving integral to each bay for additional storage around the trucks. And then there was also other elements that were discussed where the providing bulk storage for public access for salt, compost drop-off, and then we would have a fuel island on the site to remedy the current DEC situation and provide access for the town vehicles for fueling purposes. And the report, our detailed report, is listed on the town's website. So, as you can see right now, this is currently how the site is. The idea is that the public access would be on the south side of the site, the southern entrance. Highway garage vehicle access would be on the northern site. The new garage is going to be in this area. There will be public parking and staff parking down here. There's going to be bulk material storage over in this area. This is going to be the cold storage building in this area. The fuel island will live right here, and the idea is that the northern entrance would be restricted with key fob access for town purposes only. You'd have the one-way traffic flow in. You can go to the salt shed, fuel island, storage facility, and circle around to the southern door of the highway garage, and the garage would be one-way pull-through action to kind of alleviate conflicts with public access. Public would be able to come in here through a security fence, park in the bays here, or go over to the bulk storage area. In the event that there's a winter storm, the staff, the highway plow trucks can come in and come around this way. Both entrances are wide enough for two-way traffic flow, but they are, the ideal operation would be one way in, one way out. And I forgot to mention that we're not proposing a build-up right to the southern end of the parcel here. There's going to be about a 50 to 70 foot buffer of tree line for the southern property, and then to the north, there's a small sliver of the Saratoga County Airport. So again, just to reiterate, you can see the size of a plow truck in the current 1967 garage. There's very limited overhead clear height. So these 5 bays are mainly for light maintenance. And major maintenance happens in the 1994, where they only have 2 lifts right now. So the new garage will have clear height of 18'3" at the eaves, and in the middle of the building it'll be about 26 feet. So the proposed new highway garage and the new cold storage building will have clear height to allow for these trucks to be maintained, and they're not taller than the existing salt shed that's on the site. So I don't know if you want.
So, right now, what we're, where we are is in the very kind of early part, the beginning of the sort of the planning phase, right? So we've got the preliminary engineering report, which Cody mentioned is up on the town's website. Now that, and there's a whole corpus of work that underlies that. So what this sequence of events shows is the activities, sort of the immediate next steps that we need in order to get to detailed design. Because what we've got right now is more of a conceptual layout, driven, as Cody mentioned, by the needs of that we've identified working with the town. Essentially what we're tonight kicks off that more detailed planning phase, including public engagement. This is kind of the beginning of that phase, introducing the concept, the project both to the full town board, coming outside of the facilities committee, and also one of the next steps, in addition to the board doing its review, is we're going to make a referral to the planning board for an advisory report. That would probably happen over the next month or two. Out of that advisory report and anything that comes in through the town board or the members have, we would make any necessary revisions. And then eventually, as the board has done with the condition assessment, we would make revisions to that preliminary engineering report as, or excuse me, the town board would accept that as, as the guiding light for preliminary engineering of this new facility. So we also have to do state environmental quality review we have to step through that process for the new facility. That's going to include probably an initial phase with the fuel island, and then the remaining parts of the site. That process is already underway, so we're likely going to move fairly quickly through that. But that's necessary in order to for the board to take any other action, and commit the town to this plan. One other thing, that second bullet point under winter 2023, we, as Cody mentioned, we're providing buffering, and we're thinking carefully about the site and its sort of neighborhood and what potentially is going to be across the street to the south, the north not so much, but so it's situated within the town's town center zoning district. So there are things like minimum or maximum setbacks that we have to meet, and there are some other things that relate to community infrastructure like lighting, signage, landscaping, that type of stuff. So we're expecting the planning board to work with us to get through sort of that analysis, and also give us some ideas in terms of what that concept site plan should look like. So once we do that, we're likely going to need some relief from the town zoning, given the unique nature of this facility, the sort of criticality of the services that Jason and his colleagues provide. So that's a process that would go through the town board. There's a protocol for that, known as the Monroe test. We're likely going to need to do that. That'll be back in front of the town board after we do seeker. And then in spring, late winter, spring next year, we're likely going to start the detailed design phase. One of the things that the condition is rooted in that condition assessment. We also looked at comprehensively the town's other facilities, including parks and like the stump dump out on the western part of the town. So out of that condition assessment, and so once with the recommendation to relocate the highway facility and those 3 buildings and all of the activities, in addition to some of the parks facilities, to the Rowland Street site, as Jason mentioned, that makes room for sort of a blank slate. Right in the middle of town, it's a huge asset to the town, and part of our scope and the project that the facilities committee conceived and the board approved is to do some planning for the future of this site. So this is kind of our initial cut at opportunities. So on this map, anything in a box basically is going to remain, including town hall. That's going to remain too. Just so you know. That little, at least, yeah. So this is slated for intersection realignment potentially. This is actually this blue box up here. The upper right is potential town hall expansion. The pavilions down here, which it's actually not showing up, they are going to remain in this area because they're in pretty good shape, as the condition assessment shows. The Parks Department will likely relocate to the new site. But then we've got, there's an 80 space roughly CDTA park and ride that we need. We're going to work with CDTA to figure out what the future of that should look like. And then there's a new emergency services building that's going to go in here at the the northwest corner of the parcel. But everything else, when we've looked at like you know, the hard courts, for example, there's, this pavement surface is pretty compromised. It looks like there would be a lot of work needed in order to, you know, basically you have to take that down to the dirt. So, not saying that there wouldn't be tennis courts or basketball courts or a practice court or more baseball fields, which also have some drainage issues. But we're, you know, there are opportunities. We're going to look at that, and if we move them, you know, they might fit better in another part of the site. Similarly, the playground equipment, was in good shape, but it may not be in the best location. You could pick it up and move it. So this is kind of, so there's a logical step. You know, condition assessment. What should stay, what maybe needs more investment, and then out of that, the next step is going to be developing a concept site plan, and that's kind of where we are. We've kind of, you know, more or less set what the opportunities are, which is the bulk of that site, as that map shows, and then we're going to work. We're going to do some sort of high-level conceptual planning. What uses, where. How might the future of this parcel interrelate with its neighborhood, basically the businesses across the street, the neighborhoods to the south and to the west, and what other types of uses is it? What types of recreation amenities? That type of process. And a big part of this, in this little screenshot here, is from the Reimagine Milton website. So this website has been, we stood it up in early October. That was the beginning of our public engagement process. So we've got a survey up there, which we're probably going to keep open for another few weeks. We've got I think about 285 responses or so. So we're starting to sort through that. We spoke with stakeholders in the community, including the land development community and other community services. And you know, we're going to have as well additional public meetings where we present the results of all of the concept site plan. So that's kind of probably that's where we are. And as Jason said, we're likely going to keep the conversation going. Our next steps is to get in front of the planning board and make sure the town board is comfortable with this. And thank you, everybody. I'll turn it back over.
Does the town board or anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just one quick statement to go on with this. Sometimes as the public, we feel like we don't get a lot of public input into something. With the town garage, there isn't a lot of public input that we can do because everything's set by building codes and everything else. But this whole reimagining this area is the one thing where the people, you people out there, can have input that would really get you a facility that you want and make it a playable facility. If you want pickleball, whatever you want. And that's the important thing of the survey. If you go on the Reimagine Milton website, take the survey, give us your input, because that's important.
So I just want to ask a question, and Dave and Jason can answer this. So the highway garage is all preliminary at this point, correct? It's all preliminary. So the only thing that the town is moving forward on is the relocation of the fuel island and the cold storage building, which, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, we already have the funding for that project. And we're waiting on a seeker for that and probably start in the spring?
Back in 2019 is when we started to plan financially to relocate both the cold storage building and the fuel island. At that point, we put away $660,000, and then we've made contributions through the adoption of the 2022 and 2023 budgets. So at $150,000 apiece, which puts us at about $1 million to to start to work
through those two projects, and one of which is already been authorized by the board back in July of this fiscal year.
I just want to make it clear, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about, prices and moving on. So the only thing that, at this point, that we are moving forward is a fuel island and cold storage at this point, correct? Correct? Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Most of that money's already funded though.
Correct.
It's called, it's set in a reserve. The board has restricted it to only be used for that purpose. And that's been a multi-year effort. So through that multi-year process, we've been able to accumulate resources to, finance the construction of, starting with the fuel island and then onto the cold storage building.
John?
In view of the fact that this complex is going to be adjacent to a heavily residential area, I'm assuming that in the preliminary designs, you're going to take into account aesthetics.
Yes, yeah, that was, maybe Cody, you wanna,
Yeah, just so the aesthetics of it, we are gonna look at how that front is treated right now with where we have the building kind of located. It's about a 75, 80-foot setback from the road. So there'll be opportunities there to put trees, and then also that wall can be the quote-unquote money wall and have some sort of architectural aesthetics to it that the other three sides of the building that you wouldn't see from the road would have.
and it's,
So that's more moving down the line into the design portion of the project. Right now, it's just in the conceptual phase of where the buildings lay out, and then just some conceptual boxes on a piece of property to get an idea of how everything is gonna lay out for the efficiencies of the town and their uses.
and that, there are opportunities too to place the office portion of the building along that building face, so it sort of breaks up that large expanse of it's, it's gonna be a big building, at least they need a big building, so. And that's a part of also of working with the planning board and really looking at those town center requirements. I think it's like 27 pages of various types of recommendations and others. So we're gonna look at that, and to the extent that we can, we'll make recommendations, and balance that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Cody. Adam, Mary Beth, thank you very much.
Where do you want us to leave this? Is that good?
That's fine. Moving on, next on the agenda is going to be a presentation by the Lumac Company. Prior to that, I would like to call up Mayor Frank Rossi to address the board and the public, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Board. John, happy birthday. Don't look a day over 39, no matter what Judy says, okay? Just want to give a brief overview of how we got here in the first place, because I've seen a lot of discussion, had some phone calls about Woods Hollow and what's going on with it. Around the time I took office in April, got a call from the supervisor. He said, congratulations on taking office. You own, by the way, Woods Hollow. You're not maintaining it. What are you going to do about it? I said, thanks, Scott, appreciate you. From that point, we discussed the fact that it had not been handled in terms of widowmakers, et cetera, in quite some time, and I think it's actually longer than we realized. Bob Rice will discuss that in a moment. But we did go out to seek the opinions of lumber companies, or logging companies, excuse me, that specialize in this selective cutting approach, and ultimately we landed on Lumac, who has a history of working with the town of Milton especially, and generally like their approach and concept of things. Bob Rice from Lumac is here today, and he actually went on a tour with some town and village officials last week to reassure them of what some of the markings do or don't mean and what's going on in that forest. And I'll talk more about the future of Woods Hollow generally after Bob gives his presentation about next steps with respect to logging. Bob?
Thank you, members of the board, and thank you all for the opportunity. So a little background on Lumac Company. Lumac was a collaboration of Tom Luther and Bill Mackey back in 1962, and it was formed to manage the Luther Forest, 6,500 acres at the time. Over the years, they were approached by adjoining landowners that had questions about how to manage their own property. So they added foresters, and I was one. I had started with them in 1979, so I've been there a long time. And so that was the focus of it. To this day, we still manage the about 3,500 acres, mostly in Stillwater, of Luther Forest lands, and we also manage the county's forests for them. They have a similar size ownership distributed throughout the county. We have a little history with the village of Boston Spa that dated back, at least during my tenure in 1998, we did some work further up on Rowland Street on the reservoir properties. We signed an agreement in April of '98 to do that. At the time, Woods Hollow was discussed, but not, they decided it wasn't time yet to do something there. Hindsight being what it is, they probably should have done something back then. Typical rotation, well, I think as a forester, I think in terms of rotation ages. Most of the time with softwood in this area of the country, we're looking at about 12 to 15 years. That means that you should probably revisit those sites, that kind of periodicity. Hardwood, you might leave a little bit longer. And the reason you do that is because, as you know, trees are constantly growing. And as they grow, they will compete with each other. They will compete for roots, for crowns, and you might not see it. It might not be that dramatic to look at. But if you looked at a cross-section of, I don't want to get into the weeds here too long, but just to give you a little feel of what it is that I look at when I go out there. If you look at a cross-section of a stump, it can tell you a lot. It can tell you where that individual tree was feeling competition. You'll see a compression of annual rings on the sides of the tree where it is feeling competition. Whereas where it's free to grow at its own rate, the rings will be much wider. So what we try to do as foresters is space trees out. We do have preferred species that we know do well in these areas. On this site, the oaks, we have white oak, red oak, black oak. Those will do well. It's mostly a sandy soil. There's 4 species of pine. There's white pine, red pine, pitch pine, and Scotch pine. Scotch pine and red pine were planted there many, many years ago. So the idea of what we do is we go out, and it probably is a little bit of a shock to someone who's not used to it. But where I've marked so far, which is probably about 80% of the property, there is a lot of blue. My markings are in blue for the trees that I think should be removed. And so it can be a bit of a shock. But if you take a closer look at where I'm marking, at the trees that I don't have marked, those are the ones that are going to be in better form, have a better crown on them, and I'm giving them space. Because I'm going to project out about another 20 years. I'm going to try to factor in what I think will be the situation 10 years from now, 15 years from now. It's not an exact science, but I have a pretty good handle on how to do it in this area of the woods. So that's the overall approach of what we're doing. When I'm not trying to generate a particular income for anybody, there will be income that comes from it, but that's not my focus. My focus is simply the trees that are growing there, and I want to give them the residual stand, the best opportunity to grow. when I'm marking, the first things I'm looking at as I'm walking through an area, I'm identifying what we call crop trees. And those are the trees that have the best genetics that I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, okay, these gonna be great seed sources. So I'm gonna leave those. The next thing I'm looking at are filler trees. They're also gonna be species that are favorable. They're a good mix with what the crop trees are. So that's what I'm gonna design the forest to look like. And by process of elimination, I come up with the trees that I think should be removed. Now, there will be some nice trees that come out because they're dominant on the site, they're taking up too much space. So I want to release it and allow other trees to fill in. So that's, I don't want to get into too much, but I'm happy to answer any questions. But I just wanted to give you an overview of what it is we're trying to do, yes.
I was just wondering, do you take into account when this will happen, like to avoid when animals are using the trees for nesting in the spring, for example? So would it be cleared either before or well after that
So
time period?
the timing of this, we're looking to start late February. It's probably about a 6-week process. So there will be some overlap of that area. When I see a tree that's obviously a dead tree, we leave those. That's an automatic. Even if it's for other reasons, I would perhaps want to take that out, because wildlife is always, of course, a big concern as well. Yes?
Which entrance are you going to use as the major entrance for your trucks?
Right, so we're probably going to split it into 2 projects because of the topography of the land. There is a C stream that comes from the Saratoga Springs property, feeds the reservoir, and then it's not a stream anymore, but it comes all the way out to Rowland Street. So we'll probably have a northern entrance, and there's really only one spot to go in that way. It's up near the auto body repair place. That entrance would be one. And then there are a couple of choices on the south side. So I do want to meet with the contractor and get his feel for what he thinks would work best. Yes?
Will the property be closed to the public while this is taking place?
Yes, it is. And if we accomplish the idea of doing 2 entrances, we probably can leave one half open. That'll be a choice for the mayor and his board. But that's what I would envision. They are creating some signage to let the public know that these areas will be shut down for a period.
What was the last time you're estimating that this work was done in Woods Hollow from what you've seen?
We were guessing, I think we were talking when we went out in the field, maybe Bob, were you the one that mentioned, maybe you thought it might be 40 or 50 years ago? Or somebody mentioned that.
I think we were talking at least 30 plus years.
For sure, yeah. So, well overdue. I mean, you can see on the ground, there's thousands and thousands of trees that are on the ground decaying.
Will you take them also?
So that's a question from an operations standpoint. If the equipment that comes on the site, these are grapple skidders, there's a lot of force, and so they could try closing on some of these and they might break apart. But the idea will be to remove as much as possible. Right now, from a marketing standpoint, there is a good chip market at both Finch Prine and International Paper, so that's not always available, but that's where that wood would go. But there's also thousands and thousands of trees that are dead standing, and you don't notice them unless you walk out and actually look up. It's fairly amazing, and we will try to remove as many of those as we possibly can. That's one of the focuses that the mayor made clear to me. They want to make it as safe an environment as possible. So to the extent that we can, we definitely will.
Bob, what's the percentage of trees you're taking out of there?
Okay.
I'm concerned because they did it in Boyhaven, and I know that ever since they did that in Boyhaven, with the storms going on, and DPW can probably back me up on this, they're called there nonstop for trees going down in any windstorm, blocking the road. It's been terrible up there.
So
That's my concern, is what you're taking out of there and how many, and
right.
is it gonna open up where we have a storm where they're all blowing down and
No.
then it's a hazard
No,
to people and?
So the Boyhaven property, there were 2 harvesting operations that went on there. One was actually the base, what you mostly see when you go out there. That was a state forester himself who actually marked that. And I think we had this discussion, we were out touring the property last week. I think he was trying to do an even-aged management plan, either a seed tree or a shelter wood, what we call type of harvest. I think completely inappropriate, but that's, and maybe this is an experimental thing that they're trying to do. We went in after them in the camp stomping ground, which is, we did about 30 acres of that. And if you were to walk in there and compare it to what was done by the state, it's dramatically different. We did it simply.
So you did on premises, they did off premise.
Right. Right. And so when you ask a question, I would always generally ask, well, are we talking about trees 10 inches and larger or what? And if we wanted to pick that, I would say probably 15% or so. It might look more dramatic, but if you actually counted trees in that size range and up, that's probably about what it would be. Any other questions by the board or the public?
I may for a second, just want to go to the next looking to solve. And again, that's why Bob and Lumac seem to be far and away the better option ultimately. About the future, it's no secret from our village board meetings, if you go about 3 hours into them or thereabouts, that we have discussed the possibility of the town purchasing this property. It is located in the town. It can be more easily handled by the town for its future. Right now, what we'd like to do is get it into a position to be safe. My sister almost got taken out by a widowmaker on Friday, just driving around, so I have a better understanding of what widowmakers can do, even outside of forests, let alone inside one where you might not see it coming. So we want to make sure that that property is safe and put in great condition for ultimately if we do turn it over to the town. And we're in discussions with the supervisor and Barb and Dave Bramer as well, just to make sure we're handling those aspects correctly. And Mary Ann Morgan, I've sat down with her committee as well, Open Spaces, Green Space, to just debrief them and always answer questions. She owes me an ice cream cone still. I'm holding you accountable.
5 gallon pail.
A 5 gallon pail, wow. I'm all for that. But nonetheless, we're trying to be as transparent and communicate this as much as possible. And people have called my cell phone. I have not hung up on them. I've had great conversations, just informed of where we are on this along the way. And Bob has been offering folks if they want to take a walk with him to see what's going on in there. He's been very, very easy to reach and give his time up on this, so we do appreciate that. That's kind of excess stuff beyond what you would normally be doing in a situation like this. Any questions for me or Bob before we leave you?
Now, when this project starts, you just might want to give us your cell phone number so we can just give it to everybody a call.
6-digit number.
Yeah. 555-1212.
Thanks.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Moving on, next on the agenda is public comment. Public comment on agenda items only. Anyone? Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Bantham, 32 Birch Tree Lane. I just wanted to state that my wife and I were back in Woods Hollow, and we had a chance to visit with Bob while we were back there, and he did explain very thoroughly what was going on, and I'm very supportive of this as long as the interest is conservation and forestry, and that's the focus. This is an area that I frequent very much. It's directly across the street from where I live, and that's important to me. And it is a little scary to see the numerous blue markings there, so I just want to make sure that care is given. There are two agenda items I'd like to also speak on briefly. One is the Route 50 corridor study. At this point, I've had a chance to review the corridor study, and I'm mostly supportive of it. My only hesitation is the concept of the commercial multi-use dwellings. To my mind, when I think of examples of those, I think of buildings in Malta near the Market 32 and CVS, and I think about those on Weibel Ave near the Saratoga Ice Rink. In my opinion, some of those are more aesthetically pleasing than others. So my only request is consideration be given careful planning, design that goes into those buildings if we're going to use those. And I think if done properly, they can make a very attractive entranceway into our community, and I'm supportive of that. And then lastly, I just wanted to comment on the town's Milton Master Trail Plan. I had a chance to review that briefly before the meeting tonight, and I'm excited about what's in there. I think the work is very thorough. Anytime that you can improve recreation in our town, give opportunities for bicycling or walking, making it easy to access other areas of our community by alternative means of transportation, I'm very supportive of that. I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Justin, can you talk?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Grassi. I'm an attorney with Jones Steves. I represent...
We lost you.
Yep, I think I'm back.
Yep.
Okay, Justin Grassi, I'm an attorney with Jones Steves. I represent Michael Monaco. He is a property owner in the town, the property known as 352-356 Saratoga Avenue. We submitted to the board kind of and my apologies for this, a last minute submission earlier today to the supervisor to distribute to the town board members. Essentially the ask is for consideration in incorporating Mr. Monaco's property within that corridor mixed use district. The property itself, I'll briefly summarize kind of why we're asking that and what the property is. The property is located on what would be kind of the northeasternmost section of that study. It is right outside of the corridor, the proposed corridor mixed use district. It's 4.26 acres. Would be designated R1 if not for inclusion in the CMU. In addition, Mr. Monaco owns 1.12 acres just to the north of it, which would be in the city of Saratoga Springs, but it would provides frontage then on both North Line Road as well as Saratoga Ave. So historically, this property was used for manufactured housing, but because of kind of the adjacent and surrounding uses, we think it probably makes more sense to be more commercial in nature rather than residential. The western frontage of this property includes both the Stewart's shop to the northwest and the Doubleday Avenue, 2142 and -2144 Doubleday Avenue, which is a number of multifamily housing as well as several commercial enterprises. And then on the east, the only other border there is, along its entire eastern frontage, is the railroad, the D&H Railroad Company. So for those reasons, we think that this parcel is kind of ripe for consideration as a commercial parcel. We believe if it remained R1 residential, the use just wouldn't make sense for a single family residence, or I understand there are some additional uses which we've permitted in there, but they're all very low intensity residential uses. It just likely wouldn't make sense sandwiched in between a railroad and all those much more intense commercial uses. We also note that the CMU, as it's currently proposed, kind of fans out as it approaches North Line Road on the western side of Route 50. Adding this particular parcel would kind of do something similar on the eastern side. It would fan out and provide that additional frontage on North Line in connection to Saratoga Ave. So for those reasons, we kind of put this last minute submission to the town board for consideration to potentially incorporate this parcel into the CMU district. We just wanted to give that summary because it was so last minute, but I'm here for any questions. Mr. Monaco is intending to be here as well. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency and could not attend. But I appreciate the town board's attention to this. And again, my apologies for that last minute submission.
Any questions?
I don't know, we haven't seen the submission. Maybe next month we'd have questions.
We're not moving on that this month anyway, so no further discussion, it's been moved to next month's meeting. Anyone else like to speak? Mary Ann Morgan.
Do I have to give my address? No.
Yes.
We're still doing it? Okay,
Yes, we
fine.
want to hear what your address is.
I want to know where you live.
Your cell phone number.
I'm listening to the open space, because we're kind of the redheaded stepchild of the committees in the town. We're just kind of getting up to speed, just getting our report back, from our engineering company. It kind of sounds like you're slowing way down with Milton taking any forward action with Woods Hollow. I was hoping in my lifetime to see it done, but it appears I might be 100.
I would say, if I may, Supervisor, we're in active discussions right now to figure out the next steps, because municipally we're required to do certain things, including a fair market value appraisal, and then we don't have to use the fair market value appraisal, but it's the basis, the start of negotiations. So that's where we're going, making sure we have the paperwork correct for the fact it's preserved, et cetera, and next steps from there. So actually, we're working in tandem with what Bob's doing to look at the next steps, and I'm only one vote on the Board of Trustees in the village, so I can't speak for the board, but we do want to see what to do next with the town, and the town is always in my ear about this because they share your concerns about timing and getting it done ultimately.
Yeah, we don't want too many wrong turns.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else?
I guess I have a question. Do we have backup as to whether this was to remain for evergreen or forever wild?
I have, I was trying to find it last week. David pinged me just before the holiday. I got him a couple things, but there's something else that we have from the village from back many years ago. Bob Kavanaugh, I think, was part of the people that actually did that. If you want to go ahead, Bob, and speak to actions taken for that, you remember.
Well, and speaking to a couple of the other folks around the board, when we did this with Woods Hollow, it was our belief that when we set aside that area, it was the same time that West Wind Hills was developed as the other side of the road, that it was going to be forever preserved. It wasn't going to be subject to development at any time. That was what we believed, that's what we were told. The actions that we took as a board were going to do, they were going to preserve it as just a natural.
Was there a resolution or something? Because
yes.
Yeah, there was. I didn't go back through
that has to be
it.
taken into account when we're looking at fair market value.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It can't be purchased, somebody can't go in and purchase it as a development,
Right.
which is something we don't want to see here in our town.
And the intent, Barbie, ultimately would be to put a deed restriction in as well if it turns
Exactly,
over, to
absolutely.
make sure it's embraced now and in the future. So we're going to cover this many different ways to make sure it is.
So when we're
That.
negotiating something, we have to know that that's part of the deal here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It should be part of our record somewhere in the
Yeah, I have an old Patty Towers
96.
document, yep.
96, 97
Yeah,
timeframe.
okay.
We'll get it, we'll get it to you. I just have to find it again. It's somewhere in my mess of documents.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comments now closed. Next, resolution number 83 of 2022, resolution authorizing the transfer of the highway townwide fund balance to the general fund and to further restrict a set amount to the general fund resource balance for the cold storage building and fuel island station reserve. Whereas the town comptroller recommends monies in the amount of $335,000 of the highway townwide fund balance be transferred to the general fund, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the town comptroller to transfer monies in the amount of $335,000 of the highway town-wide fund balance to the general fund and to restrict general fund resources to the sum of $2,035,000 for the cold storage building and the fuel station reserve amount. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board, town of Milton, motion for resolution number 83.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes,
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, resolution number 84 of 2022, resolution authorizing advertising and/or selling of obsolete town-owned equipment on Auctions International government website. Whereas the town of Milton Deputy Superintendent has advised that certain town-owned equipment in surplus, out of service, and/or inoperable has recommended to the board, to the town board, and desirous of auctioning off said equipment as surplus and no longer needed for highway town purposes, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board does hereby upon the recommendation of the town of Milton Highway Superintendent declare the following surplus, out of service, inoperable, and no longer needed for town purposes, and approves and requests for advertising and selling Auctions International government website the following obsolete town equipment. Number 1, a Tarco salt and pepper spreader. Number 2, a 1998 Vermeer wood chipper. And number 3, a 2008 Ford F-150. And further also authorizes the highway superintendent in his direction to accept the reasonable bid, to decline all bids that are received on each of the items above. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board, town of Milton, motion for resolution number 84.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes,
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes, next, resolution number 85 of 2022, resolution to accept the town of Milton Trail Master Plan and recognizes the contributions made by LaBella Associates, the town of Milton Open Space Committee, and the Saratoga County Planning Department. Whereas the town of Milton was awarded funding through the Saratoga County Trails Program grant to complete the townwide trail master plan, and now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby formally accepts the town of Milton Trail Master Plan, a copy of which is attached hereto, and recognizes the significant contributions made by Bella Associates, the town of Milton Open Space Committee, and the Saratoga County Planning Department, and the research, contemplation, and completion of the said plan. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board, town of Milton, motion for resolution number 85.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna thank, the Open Space Committee and, LaBella, they were really under the gun to get this done, so we could get that grant pushed, so we're about 2 years behind on it, so thanks everyone that worked on it. Thank you, Frank.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes,
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander.
Yes. Next, resolution number 86 of 2022, resolution enacting local law number 3 of 2022 to modify town code chapter 63 entitled animals. Whereas the town board and planning board have been reviewing various town zoning regulations and related laws, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board, town of Milton, is hereby approves the modification current code 63 to support animals and adopt local law 3 of 2022 by adding new article number 4, section 63-18, 63-19, 63-20, and 63-21, a full copy of which is attached hereto, and be it further resolved, the town clerk be and she hereby is directed to enter the local law in the minutes of the meeting and in the local law book in the town of Milton, and to give due notice to the adoption of the local law to the Secretary of the State of New York. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of town of Milton, motion for resolution number 86.
I'll make that motion.
discussion? Councilman Isakson?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes. Next, resolution number 87 of 2022, resolution enacting local law number 4 of 2022, to modify the town code chapter 180 entitled zoning, section 18037 and section 18042. Whereas the town board and the planning board has been reviewing various town regulations and related laws, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board, town of Milton hereby approves the modification of the current town code 180 to support farming and farm animals activities, and the R2 district adopts local law number 4 of 2022 by adding section 18042Q and section 1, 2, and 3, and modifying section 18037, a full copy of which modifications are attached hereto, and may be further resolved that the town clerk be and she hereby is directed to enter said law into the minutes of the meeting of the local law in the town of Milton, and to give due notice to the adoption of the local law to the Secretary of the State of New York. Now therefore be it resolved by the town of Milton. Motion for resolution number 87.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes. Next, a motion to approve Sunday in the Park. It's a car and bike show to use Burgess Kimball Park on July 9th of 2023, with all proceeds to benefit the town of Milton summer camp program.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes. Next, a motion to set the 2023 organizational meeting for Wednesday, January 4th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes. Next, a motion to extend the public hearing for the Route 50 corridor until the next board meeting in January.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Isakson?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Ostrander?
Yes. Next, department and committee reports. Animal control. Report for November 2022. Total calls 107. Bite cases 3. Dangerous dog 0. Animal seized 9. Tickets issued. Unlicensed dog 0. Running charge 2. Nuisance dog 2. Total of 4. Respectfully submitted. Dave Drzezinski. Animal control. Next will be the building department. John?
During the month of November, the building department processed 20 building permits and collected $3,414 in building permit fees and $250 in zoning fees. We completed 140 construction inspections, 24 fire safety inspections, and responded to 13 code enforcement complaints, 1 being a condemnation. A total of 14 certificate of occupancy and 20 certificate of compliance.
Thanks, John. No buildings and grounds report this month. Comptroller's financial reporting pack is issued to the town warden, and it's made available to the public on the website. There is no highway department.
I can give a brief. The highway department, I'll be the first to say, has done a very good job over Christmas and the holidays of keeping the roads clear, keeping travel moving. So you should be commended for that. And a strange winter already.
I totally agree. Thanks, John. Next historian, Mike.
Hello, I'm Mike Companion, town historian. I continue working on updating the historian's webpage with invaluable assistance of Deputy Clerk Amanda Zoeda, improving accessibility to information related to the Historic Structures and Places Committee, as well as the 250th Committee for the Revolutionary War. We are continuing to research and document all Revolutionary War veterans interred in the town, adding them to the website. We recently added a tab for assessing information on veterans of all wars who have been honored by the town in the past. We are currently seeking candidates to be honored for 2023. So if anyone knows a deceased veteran who may be related, again, we're looking to honor somebody this coming year too. So I have applications down on my desk downstairs. You can stop by and pick one up. I think it makes it on the website's BB2. The 250 Revolutionary War Committee met on December 8th, and we discussed upcoming plans for infrastructure dedicated to honoring veterans of the Revolutionary War and possible upcoming events to commemorate the settling of the town. So we haven't got anything set yet. We're still working on putting plans together. The 250, technically 1775 is when the war kind of starts, but things were happening here in 1773, so we're trying to get something set for 1773. The first settlers coming here and established themselves along the line roads, things like that. I just want you guys to know that if you do go on the historian's webpage, there's a lot of stuff there. A lot of local history stuff that's been added this year. Me and Amanda have been working really hard for the last 3 months and trying to get something out there for people to actually assess and see things. I just put Marianne's home on the webpage for Heritage Awards from the last month. So again, we're trying to get everything we have here in town someplace where the public can actually see it in terms of the history of the town and its historic structure of places. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Next, Justice Court Lodge.
Okay, total monies collected and remitted to the state controller for the month of November. Fines were $3,315. Surcharges, $2,832. Civil fees, $577.09, for a total of $6,724.09.
Thanks, Barb. Ryan, do we have any planning and zoning?
Yes. So the planning board met on December the 14th. The main items of interest was a public hearing regarding a major subdivision at 336 Round Street. The public hearing was held and closed. There was continued discussion about a proposed airport storage hangar for a site plan review and special use permit. That will actually carry over to the zoning board, which meets tomorrow evening. They will have a public hearing for an area variance. And lastly, there was discussion for special use permit extension at 6654 Middle Grove for the Austro Solar Farm, which was approved. And then, as I mentioned, zoning will meet tomorrow evening.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Lisa, nice to see you back. Do you have anything for us this month?
Yes. Okay, so the 2022 property tax bills will be mailed out Thursday and Friday. So everyone should receive their tax bills within the first week of January. For any reason you don't, that's your cue to call me to say, hey, I didn't get my bill, something happened. My phone number is on our website, but in case you didn't know, it's 518-884-2765. So that's direct right to my office. We're anticipating adding a new payment feature for taxpayers when they're paying in person. We'll be offering the option to pay at the window using a credit card. So that's brand new this year. We also have the secure drop box, the outside drop box. We've had it installed right outside the buildings to the left or to the right of the town hall entrance. In addition to in-person payments, we're still accepting payments online. This site is also on our town hall website, but it's egov.basny.com/Milton. Quick tip, if you are going to do this online, a box is going to come up asking you 4 questions. Don't try to fill out all the information. Just type in your last name in the owner field, and that'll get you right to your property tax bill. And of course, you can mail in the payments to 503 Geyser Road, Boston Spa, New York, 12020. And if you do that, please be sure to put your phone number on that check in case there's any problems where I can contact you right away. Otherwise, I gotta mail it back to you, and that could take too much time. For January, my office hours will be Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And if anybody has any questions, call me at any time. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Next, Comfort.
So for the month of November, we had 2 marriages, 16 certified marriage certificates, 22 certified death certificates, 1 genealogical research, 9 FOIL and search of records, 110 dog licensing, 23 online dog licensing, 42 hunting and fishing licenses, and 2 pavilion, or, well, it was community center because it's cold. The town share was $2,397.21.
Thanks, Brenda. Economic development, John?
Just give you a brief update on the things that have been happening. On the electric vehicle chargers out here, Brian Stanley from 9-Year advised that the installation of the park and ride chargers are going to be done within the next week or 2, although they will not be powered up pending installation of the freestanding electrical power box. Apparently, the normal supplier that advised the usual boxes has a 52-week back order because of the supply chain, so he had to go to an alternative supplier, which he hopes to get somewhere around mid-January. But the units themselves will be installed within the next couple of weeks. Now, the board is aware of this, but this is just an update for the residents. Back in 2000, B&A Associates provided us with the original town center plan. In view of the time that has passed and our current business development initiatives, I reached out to John B&A to discuss updating our town center guidelines, and particularly to address the traffic concerns at our Geyser Road and Rollin intersection. After a few meetings with the supervisor and a board member, B&A put together a proposal to obtain grant funding through the Capital District Transportation Committee. The board did approve the proposal, and B&A Associates submitted a grant application to address not only the intersection improvement, but complete streets planning to improve the bicycle and pedestrian facilities, including linkages to the Geyser Road path and the Zen Smith and other trail connections. Now, this application was for a $75,000 grant and is currently under review by the CDC and hopefully will be approved. Another area, the airport. The county recently announced plans to build a new $30 million plus terminal over at our airport. And we have initiated a current conversation with the county to explore how this new facility could benefit not only aviation users, but the general population of Milton and the surrounding areas. And the details on this project will be revealed at a later date as we move forward and we solidify our ideas. That could be pretty exciting. I've been speaking with our local town center businesses in the area and encouraging them to share their success stories so we can use those to attract other business investors. When we talk to businesses around here, they say they are doing extremely well. And we may not be on the Northway, we don't have an exit over here, but we have a large population base, and these people come and they spend money at our businesses. So, as a result of that, I'm trying to get our current businesses to become partners in our economic development. Now, this is an ongoing process, but I'm happy to say that the Stewart Shop has joined our partnership in recommending that Milton Town Center is an excellent profit center. So we got one good partner on our side. And we've been in contact with a number of various food establishments, fast food restaurants, etc. And these are all in the process of ongoing discussions, which will provide details at a later date when it comes necessary. That's it.
Thanks, John. Next, public comment on any town business. Public comment is now open if anyone would like to speak.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my mom was talking about the airport, she lives across the street from the airport. I'm assuming everything will be built this side of the entrance of the airport, because that other side's the runway side. So if they are gonna develop the airport, it's gonna be this side along 50, no?
No, the new terminal will be where the old, Richmond Aviation Building is, when you go into the right there.
Are they gonna put like any, like restaurants or anything there, do you know?
That's in discussion, right now, we're trying to work something out with the county, that would be an intent, that they would like to have something there. So John's been working with a couple different places to, try to secure the business in that upper section of the terminal. Anyone else? Yes,
How big would the airplanes be coming into the airport?
same size they are now.
Okay.
They're not expanding, they would have to expand the runways to get anything bigger than what's in there now, that's correct. Anyone else?
You have a hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Brenda.
Ashley?
Guys, it's Ashley from Community.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect, all right. I just wanted to say that I hope everybody had a good holiday season and a happy new year. And it seems like we will probably be starting our project on Monday the 9th. So it's kind of exciting.
Sounds good, we're looking forward to it.
Thanks, look forward to being your neighbor.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
You too, thanks.
Anyone else, Brenda? Anyone else like to speak? Hearing none, moving on. Next, discussion on new business. The town of Milton was just awarded a $333,000 share of tax revenue from the county in addition to what we already received. So that's been given to, I believe it's been given to us in December, Dave, is that correct?
It just came in, well, within the last 2 days. It's been accounted for, it's been accounted for. It's been accounted for in the A fund, and that was the basis for allowing, we're doing well fiscally, we're doing extremely well this year. We actually received, in November, an extra $736,000 in mortgage tax distributions, plus this $300,000 amount in excess of what they generally would provide us in sales tax distributions from the county, equate to $1 million, and were restricted by the board earlier tonight for use towards our large-scale capital plans.
That's it. Any other new business on the board? Any old business? There's no need for an executive session this evening, so hearing none, motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Councilman Oxon?
Yes.
Councilman Frolich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr?
Yes.
Councilman Blaisdell?
Yes.
Supervisor Eslinger?
Yes. On behalf of myself and the board, happy New Year, everybody, and we'll see everybody next year.